You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett from AdWordsNerds.com. And if you need more help finding leads and deals online for your real estate investing business, you know where to go. It's AdWordsNerds.com. All right. This week, I am interviewing Vince Hall from Call Porter. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Call Porter, they are a sort of phone answering service that works specifically in real estate. They work with many real estate investors. They also work with agents all across the country. And look, there are a number of services like Call Porter, right? There's a number of places that are going to answer your phones for you, help you qualify your leads, whatever it's going to be. But time and again, and I'm telling you this from personal experience, time and again, we have found with our clients at AdWords Nerds that Call Porter does hands down the best job at what they do. They just are really good at it. And I don't typically bring people on this podcast to market their service. It's not what I do. I don't have a partnership with anybody. I don't make any money from this. I just wanted to bring Vince on because Call Porter is really killing it for our clients. And I wanted to dig into not just how do they do what they do, but also what can other real estate investors that aren't using Call Porter take away from how they talk to sellers. In this call, we're going to get into what the most important pieces to know about that whole sort of first impression process is going to be. I'm going to talk about how you can get the exact script that Call Porter uses with their sellers for free. We're going to talk about this cool new technological feature they have that actually cuts the speed to lead down to 90 seconds. There's a ton of super valuable stuff in this interview. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Vince Hall from callporter.com. All right, I'm here with Vince Hall from Call Porter. What's up, Vince? Thank you for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, it's great to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I love the beginning of podcasts where I have to say that and then we pretend like we haven't been talking for 5 minutes. And
right.
Totally normal and a natural thing. I'm super excited to have you on the show and to talk about your service, which is Call Porter, which is CALLPORTER.com. So callporter.com. I do not generally, like the show isn't, we don't shill services or whatever. It's not a thing we do a lot, but we have really noticed a lot of value coming from Call Porter to the clients that we work with that are using you guys. So I really wanted to have you on and talk a little bit about what you guys do. So for people that aren't familiar with the company or with you, right? Let's start with the company. Give us a quick bit of context on what Call Porter is, who you work with, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you like that, 30,000 feet overview. And so Call Porter, we're the nation's only live answering lead intake service for real estate. All of our reps are US based. They're all trained in real estate. And so, when we say, hey, we're the only ones that do this, we're the only ones that do this. Now, there are other live answering centers and lead intake centers out there, but they're not unique and built exclusively for the real estate industry. So that's why guys come to us. They're looking for, reliable, professional people to take the calls off of their marketing efforts and process them so that we're only sending them the good qualified deals so they can focus solely on those and not with the tire kickers or the people that are cussing them out and saying, hey, please take me off your mailing list or whatever it might be. So that's basically what we do for the real estate industry.
Yeah, I think it is. It's such a cool service in the sense of that thing that you talk about where everyone's US based, they're trained in real estate. That is such a huge differentiator from the vast majority of companies in this space. I mean, it really is unique. That is not how most companies like this work. So we're going to come back to that because I really, really want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we get all the details of everything.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to, trust me, you're going to be sick of hearing my voice by the end of this. Well, so give people a little bit of background on you. Like, what's your role at Call Porter? How'd you get started there? A little bit of context.
Yeah, so I do sales, and I also do their marketing on social media. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You're going to see my face on all that. And before I worked for Call Porter, I did 8 years in the military, in the Army. I was also a school teacher.
Wow, cool.
And I've known Ryan Dawsey. He's the founder of Call Porter and also our sister company, Ballpoint Marketing. Known him for years. Life of service in the military and being a teacher, while it's noble, they don't pay well. And so looking for different career direction, and also just my interest in real estate. So I am a licensed real estate agent. I put my license in referral mode, but just real estate just opened my eyes to so many more possibilities as far as generating wealth and things of that sort. So got Ryan back on the phone one day and was like, "Hey man, we need to talk." And so the rest is history. So I quit my job being a teacher and came and did this.
That's wild. I was also a teacher. What did you teach?
I taught middle school science.
All right, cool. I taught high school history. These are both cool things to teach.
Hey, it was actually my high school history teacher that prompted me to be an educator.
Okay, so similar to me, right? For whatever reason, I had a real deep connection with my history. I had a couple different history teachers where I was really like, "Oh, I want to be that person." So yeah. I'm curious. So I know my answer to this. I'm curious. We won't stay too long on this.
Right. Yeah.
Have you found that the process of teaching, your experience teaching, whatever you learn teaching, you end up applying in your current business life in some way or another? Like, do you find there's some sort of overlap there?
Absolutely, for sure. So like when people book a phone call with me to learn about Call Porter, we call it a strategy session, because when people come to Call Porter, I know they're not necessarily ready to sign up with us. There might be, a bunch of different business technologies that they need in place. And so it's almost like an educational phone call for a lot of people, because we're like the capstone, their business technologies to, we're the last stop for them whenever they're ready to sign up with us. Because if they're not marketing, they don't need us. If they're, so there's just some different things. So I use a lot of that, kind of helping them reverse engineer why they need us or when they need us, and kind of building out, okay, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, here's step 4. Because if our clients are ready, and they have all the technologies to be successful, that means we're going to be successful, right? That's client retention. So if they have the things that they need to be successful, we have the thing, we'll be successful on our end, because I'm not just going to sign someone up and be like, "Oh, welcome to Call Porter," and they're not ready. That would be ridiculous. And the same thing was with my students. You're not going to, graduate a student if they're not ready. They got to have all the necessary tools and things to be successful. The same thing goes with a business.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely will ask you for goofy teaching stories in a little while, because that's
dude, I got so many being a science teacher.
Let's go back. Let's talk about picking up the phone. Okay, because it's really interesting timing. So literally right before our interview right now, I was doing a different interview. I was interviewing Mike Simmons, incredible real estate investor, coach. He's doing 100 deals a year. He works about 2 hours a week in his business. Dude's just killing it. He's firing on all cylinders, beautiful family, like everything, right? And I was saying, where do you think that most real estate investors, like your students, people you work with, what are some of the common mistakes that they make when they're building their businesses, thinking about systems, processes, et cetera? And he told this whole story about how he had this student, and students like, "I'm really struggling. My marketing stinks. It's not generating the results that I want." And Mike kind of sits down with them on the phone, and they go through all his numbers, and he realizes like he has tons of leads coming in the door. And so they sort of plot out the funnel, and they plot out the entire thing. And he's got like a good salesperson. He's got a good thing, and everything's good. But the person who picks up the phone hates it and hates the process and like does not want to be there. Right.
Mm-hmm,
and he was like, that's the person right there. Right. And he tells this whole story about how even as a young investor, Mike really felt like anybody with a pulse can pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as an experienced investor, he realizes how critical that moment is. So can we talk just about that moment where, a seller or whoever, so somebody is coming through your pipeline, they call you for the first time, someone's picking up the phone, like, why is that important? And what should investors be thinking about making sure happens in that initial moment of contact?
Yeah. So first up, I mean, the whole reason why Call Porter exists. So Ryan Dawsey, he's the founder of our company, real estate investor, tremendously awesome mentor. But I'm just giving you kind of the minor details of it. But basically, he sent out marketing. He was, out with his wife or something like that. His phone rang. He looked at it and he was like, "I'll get it later." Call went to voicemail. Called the guy, a few hours later. Said, "Hey, this is Ryan, got a missed call from you off my, one of my marketing pieces." And the guy's like, "Well, if you would have called me 3 hours ago, I would have gave the deal to you." And he was like, "Oh, crap." And that really prompted him of him thinking, I really need to answer as many phone calls as I possibly can. And that's the problem with real estate investors, because there's a lot of investors that still work a W-2, whatever the reason, they're not picking up their phone. Maybe they're, showing a house, or not showing a house, but they're in a house, viewing, an already existing deal. So answering that phone is super, super important. I mean, right up front, because we found that, especially on the investor side of things, that a seller's usually going to go with the first person that answers their phone. And so what's going to happen at Call Porter is that when you send out your marketing efforts, and we're talking direct mail, door hangers, we have clients that have TV ads, radio ads, their websites, social media, whatever the case might be, however you're getting in front of sellers, when those inbound calls are coming in, we're going to answer the phone as your business. So it's going to seem like you have a totally legit assistant, within your office. And we've already mentioned that our clients are US based, or our reps are US based. So when they're on the phone, they sound local, they sound very professional, they're trained in real estate. We have a really great, tried and proven script that we're using that is really based upon Stephen Covey's, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
And so when they're on the phone, they collect, the seller's information, and then we go through what we call the 4 pillars of a good real estate deal. You got to get property condition, you got to get motivation, you got to get time frame and a price point. Once we have all of those data points, we go into appointment setting. Bam, you got a good qualified lead in your pipeline.
Yeah, so I want to hit on a point that you made, because this is another really good timing worth of stories, right? So I had another investor, is a client of ours, really good friend, been a coaching student for a long time now, a client of the agency, really successful in Baltimore, right? So he's been in Baltimore for a long time, knows the market. Small team, it's like him and his wife, and I think his mom and his dad, and probably a cousin or something, right? And they have their process down. Like he is an operator's operator, right? Mm-hmm. They are so efficient, so effective, right? So they recently were changing up some of their marketing, changing up some of their processes. And what it was happening was his wife was answering the phone, pre-qualifying the leads, and then passing it on, right? And so they wanted to get her out of that role. So they hired a VA from the Philippines, right? And we were talking through this, and he was like, the VA is great. His English is perfect. He doesn't have an accent, right? It's great. But they noticed that it just over and over and over again, the feedback they were getting was leads not motivated, leads not, whatever. Like the leads weren't becoming deals, right? There was this hole in their pipeline. And so we were scouring their online marketing for, is there a potential problem in the targeting or whatever, right? And so temporarily, just as an experiment, they switched the wife back in, and close rate went back up. And what they realized was she's from Baltimore, right? So she just had this very subtly different way of relating, where people felt like, okay, you're like me, right? And it's totally unconscious. I really believe, right? Yeah. But it's just like, oh, you're near, whatever, Zeppi's pizza place or whatever. I go there 3 times. It's just there's something there. So I think that this whole idea of having reps that are in the US is such a cool differentiator for the service. So let's talk about that, because obviously, like on Call Porter's side, it's more expensive to do that, right? The reason that most companies outsource to the Philippines or Vietnam or whatever is that they're taking advantage of currency arbitrage and it's cheaper, right? So how did you guys make the decision to do that? Like, why was that such a critical element of what you ended up doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, it's cheaper to use Call Porter than it is a VA, even in the Philippines. On average, those are $1,400-$1,600 a month to have them doing both even the outbound and the inbound calls and qualifying them.
But I assume it would be cheaper for you guys if you were just like, well, our whole team's in the Philippines. Or is that
okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. The whole idea is when you have investors working in the United States and they're sending mail, and there are a lot of investors that are really strategic on how they do things. So let's say direct mail, for instance, like with Ballpoint Marketing. When Ballpoint Marketing, creates these letters for the investors, they stuff the envelopes, right? They put the stamp on it and they send it to that investor's front doorstep. Why? So the front door, so that investor drops that mail in his local post office and it gets postmarked in his local town. So it would be super weird for an investor to send a bunch of mail or whatever the case might be, and then get somebody that's in the Philippines to pick up the phone for them. And we get these kind of inconsistencies all the time when I talk to clients. They're like, well, I have a cold caller. Well, was that cold caller local? No. Okay, well, your cold caller is from the Philippines.
Right.
And sometimes what they want to do is they want to drop, like if the cold caller leaves a voicemail, they'll drop the phone number in the voicemail for someone to call back, and then we'll reach our call center. But it's inconsistent to have someone from the Philippines cold call, and then when they call back, they get us, and we're really professionally trained in real estate. We're local, and you can pick up, as you said, it's kind of like subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like idioms. They don't pick up on those over there.
Yeah.
Or, rapport building. So that's really big with our reps. Now it's like, how much rapport building can you really do in a, 6 to 7 minute phone conversation? Well, a ton. So like we train the reps to, if you hear a dog bark, say, oh, wow, I hear a dog, a dog in the background. What kind of dog do you got? Oh, I got a Yorkie. What's your Yorkie's name? Luna. And, we've actually had instances where investors show up at the person's house and they see the dog and they're like, oh my gosh, that's Luna. And the person's like, how'd you know my dog was named Luna? And you're like, oh, well, my assistant Brandy told me.
Yeah.
Because our reps were taking those notes. We train our reps to, let's say an investor sent a probate mailing list or something like that. It would be a really crappy thing for a person on the phone when, the seller's saying, oh, my husband just passed away, and just saying, oh, and, how many bedrooms do you have? Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the rapport building.
Probably going to need to downsize those bedrooms now, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So, they're a VA in the Philippines might not pick up on that like we will. And when we're saying, no, you got to touch on that. That's, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. What did your husband do for a job? Oh, well, he was a firefighter. Wow, that's really fantastic. I've personally been into a house where the husband passed away, and that was the scenario where he was a firefighter, and I went in there, and all over the shelves and stuff was like his fire hat and his, like medals and all kinds of things, and it was like a talking point for me and this potential seller. It was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so much of sales, right? When it's done well.
Mm-hmm.
Is about human connection, right? And ultimately, it's about understanding that other person's needs and meeting those needs, right, in a way that produces value for both people.
Exactly.
And I think it's just, whatever the reason is, I do think that having that sort of localized thing is so important. But I think ultimately, so many people are like, well, I could do it cheaper, faster, quicker this way. And they end up missing the fact that even if, for example, because like you said, it's like a lot of times actually cheaper to use Call Porter. But like, let's say, even if you're like, okay, cool, like I got this like really good deal on this person, you're not optimizing for the amount you spend on your phone person. You're optimizing for the amount of revenue the business generates. And if this person does half as well then something else that would have cost 20% more, but is going to do twice as many deals, you are losing out so much, right? It's such a short-sighted sort of calculus that I think a lot of people try to use.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree for
sure. So what are some of the, You mentioned earlier, kind of like, sort of like in passing, and it's sort of like the common joke, right? You get the person that's like, I'm going to call the FBI on you because you sent me this postcard, which is my personal favorite. Like I've seen like 4 people threaten to call the FBI. And first of all, you don't know the FBI's phone number. And then 2, I don't think it's illegal to send mail to people, but whatever. But it's not always, even in the best case scenario where you have a really motivated seller, it's calling in, they want to sell their home, right? There's still this barrier up because I think a lot of sellers have anxiety that either they're going to get taken for a ride, they're going to get trapped on the phone and they can't get off, or they're going to be kind of like hard sold or whatever it is. So you mentioned how to win friends and influence people, but like, what are some of the ways that you think investors or people working acquisitions for investors can help to put sellers at ease or build that rapport that you were talking about before?
I think investors need to be consistent for one. So like, again, I'll just use kind of direct mail, or like they send their direct mail, they have their local phone number on it. If they got a website, put it on there too, so that a seller could go to that website, see that they're local, throw some things in your carrot site that's about your city, or, throw an Instagram and a Facebook and a YouTube, link in there as well. Like, let them see that you're real people, that you're genuine, that you're here to help the community. Because I mean, there are some just jerk investors out there that do want to take advantage of people. We've had clients that say, I won't even say they're clients, but they would be like, hey, when they call, I don't want you ever mentioning my business. Don't ever give out my name. And it's like, that's kind of shady right up front, and it's like, I'm sorry, we're not going to really kind of do that. So if they're consistent, have that website on your mail, or, have some videos or something like that shows that you're a human being, that you're local, you're kind, you're caring, you're genuine. You're not just, out there to drive a Lambo and show your rings on your hand, or you know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody's like that. And so when they call in, our reps they're very conversational. They're not robotic at all, and each of them have their own personalities on how they do things. And we always love it when clients send us emails or text messages or things, and they're like, dang man, Amber was phenomenal on the phone. Like, absolutely amazing how she handled that phone call. And I'll tell them, I'll say, hey, I'm going to share that with Amber, right? We have a Slack account. We all can talk to each other in there. And that makes Amber's day, knowing that she did something, awesome for one of our clients. So yeah, I think that once our reps, get on the phone, and let's say we do book an appointment, the investor needs to follow through on that.
Wait, so they actually have to show up?
They actually have
I'm out. That's it. I'm out. I don't want any more. No, right. I'm done.
And we laugh at it, but it happens all the time. If you go in and you actually have an appointment at the house and you say, I'm going to give you a cash offer in 24 hours, and that's what's on your website, well, damn it, you better give them an offer in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so stay consistent. I just made a post about consistency today in Instagram.
Yeah.
Are you consistently marketing? Are you consistently answering your phone calls? Are you consistently following up on deals? If not, let's talk about Call Porter, because we're going to help you with that.
If not, like, you just enter your email. I mean, it's so funny, right? But I always talk about this, right? It's like all marketing is ultimately about building trust, right? So it's all about building, I mean, really every part of the business, down to the moment where somebody gives someone else money for a service, that somebody's always doing something first, right? Either I have to give you the service before you give me the money, or you have to give me the money before I give you the service, right? There's got to be trust involved.
Right.
And one of the really, in many ways, the only way to build trust is you have to consistently tell someone what is going to happen ahead of time.
Exactly.
And then have that happen, right? Yeah. I'm going to give you an offer in 24 hours. And then within 24 hours, you got the offer, right? Every time you break that process of, hey, I told you something was going to happen and then it didn't happen, that decreases the amount of trust in that relationship, which is why it's like I do online marketing and do a lot of Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever. I'm very careful not to promise things I can't promise.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I'm like, absolutely, you're going to get 100 leads this week, and then you don't, which, by the way, like I don't have a complete power over the universe, otherwise I would do it.
Right.
So it's such a critical way of thinking about it. You mentioned your Instagram, which is, how can people find that? It's a Call Porter Instagram. So how can they?
Yeah, it's Call Porter Official.
Okay. Call Porter Official on Instagram, so they can go check that out.
Yeah.
I am very curious. Obviously, you have military background, teaching background. Of course, I want to ask you about TikTok. So I'm super curious about TikTok. This is mostly the selfish portion of this podcast. I think that most real estate investors are aware of TikTok. They've probably heard people say TikTok is like the fastest growing social media platform. In a couple of years, Facebook is basically going to be kicked in the face, and it's going to be all TikTok, and the young people are on TikTok, and TikTok, right? It's in the news. It's a thing. But I think, at least for me, like I'm 42, I was kind of like, TikTok was the first social media thing. I just felt like I'm too old. Like I just missed it.
Right.
It's too much, right? But I'm exploring it now. And I actually think that for real estate investors, it's an important channel to be aware of and to think about. And at least, if you don't want to invest a ton of time into it, to at least know something about it. So I'm curious, were you a big TikTok person before you started doing TikTok for Call Porter? And what has been your experience? You guys are obviously, you're B2B, so you're not doing the dances, and like that's like not the whole vibe of it. So like, what has it been like for you guys to use TikTok for your business?
So I've actually just incorporated TikTok maybe a month ago. So I'm far more comfortable with Instagram. Like I'm really good at, taking advantage of Instagram trending audio and, being silly and things like that. TikTok is just a different animal. Like I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, because when you're thumbing through the reels or the videos on TikTok, it's just a lot of obnoxious people, and I'm like, I can't handle this like right now.
I had a very similar experience where I was like, okay, I'm an online marketing guy. I have to know about TikTok. Right. I had like 7 people ask me about TikTok ads in a week. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to learn TikTok ads. And also Facebook ads are like kind of a nightmare now. So I was like, okay. And I got on it. When you register for TikTok, they ask you like, what are you interested in? And I skipped that part. And later I was like, why did I skip that part? Because it's just like, hey, let me show you complete horseshit. Just like nonstop BS. Whatever. This is supposed to be a family show, so I edit that out anyway. But it was like just, and so I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't take it. I kept cringing off of it, like almost immediately.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, it took me I kept going back to it a little bit at a time over the course of several weeks. I would spend literally like 5 minutes on it a week or something. And by week 4, that algorithm had figured out, hey, you like funny cat videos, like you watch those. Here's a stream of the funniest animal videos on the internet.
Yeah.
And so now both of my kids are like, hey, can you open that funny animal video app? That's what they think it's called. They don't know that it's called TikTok.
TikTok.
It has one of the best, as a matching algorithm, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Like it is not a surprise to me anymore why it is what it is. So like we can broaden this to Instagram, right? Because I think investors need to be more aware of social media in general than they are. I think investors are so used to doing direct response marketing that as an industry, we've really lagged behind on social media. And I think as the generations that are young today become the predominant sellers and buyers of homes, this is something we really need to get better on. So what's been your experience like in terms of being on Instagram? What are the types of content that you think about putting out there? Like, how do you approach that as someone who's using social media to grow your business?
Yeah, I'm definitely for real estate, whether you're an agent or an investor, social media is definitely a way to go for sure. I have agent friends here in St. Louis that are rocking on social media as a realtor. Or realtor, I have to say it correctly, or you get
get it right. It's realtor.
Yes. It's realtor.
Realtor. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Not realtor. That social media is just it reaches so many people. Especially if you can geo target and things of that sort. my approach with Call Porter, because Call Porter is for agents, realtors, and it's also for investors. So sometimes my reels or my posts or things like that are geared towards both of them. And sometimes it's geared just towards the realtor, sometimes just geared towards the investor. But I like content that, and when we hop off or whatever, you can go and see the things I dork around with on on Call Porter official. But I like things that kind of grab your attention. Making good use of trending audio is really key to.
Yeah. So I don't know much about this at all. I haven't. I got off Instagram a year ago. Not because of business, purely personal. I was like, I'm actually on it too much, and I wanted to kind of chill out for a while. So.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
For people who aren't familiar, like what's the trending audio feature on Instagram?
So if you look all the way down to the bottom left-hand corner of an Instagram reel, if there's like a little arrow pointing up next to the music or the sound, that means it's trending up, which means that when you're on Instagram, it's going to grab onto the algorithm, and Instagram's just going to show it a little bit more. And especially if you get more likes on that trending audio. If you see one going down, you probably shouldn't use that. And then there's, just a bunch of things in between.
So this is like a musical accompaniment, similar to what they do in TikTok, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Like, how like when you and it's not just music, it's like when you go on Instagram, there's voiceovers where people are, doing silly things. I do a ton of those. They're 5, 10, 15 second long, but they're attention grabbers, right?
Yeah.
And I love to hit realtors, sometimes as far as like them not answering their phones. So like I got a post that's like, what's hotter than a hot rod? Because I was sitting in a hot rod car, and I was like, it's a realtor who actually answers their phone. So like those kinds of things, and I want people to be like, hey, why are you picking on me? Just to kind of engage in conversation. But I always do the reel, and then I always post it as a story, because your story is going to get your current audience and your current followers.
You should
it's fun.
What do they call that? Like when they send the secret shoppers, send secret shoppers in, like you just record yourself calling realtor lines, just block out their personal information or whatever, and just be like, listen along as this person completely screws up this phone call or whatever. That would be.
Yeah. That's actually a video I have written down, a couple of videos. One of them is going to be, just calling local agents in a city, and 10 of them, and seeing who actually picks up and who doesn't. And
I was at a real estate investing conference once, and the guy on the stage was talking about phone sales, and he was like, "Who here is brave enough? I'm going to call someone live. I'm going to call your number live, and your team's going to pick up. I'm going to put it like on the speaker." And you have never felt the tension in a room go up. Like it was it was palpable, right? It was like he had said that, like, I've released an army of tarantulas into the conference room or whatever. Like it was just, people were like,
yeah.
And ended up being fine. But like the person was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like it didn't go great, right? And it was just like, you realize like how rarely people actually go through the process with their own team, and like listen to their own team's calls. And like, for example, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't need Call Porter because I have a person that answers the phone and they're great. What I would say is like, awesome. When was the last time you listened to a recording of that person picking up the phone? Yeah. Because if it's been a while.
Yeah. And I would say, are they great 24/7? Because we are.
That's the other thing, right? Because sellers a lot of times will call at like 2 a.m, right? Because you're stressed out of your mind, right? So you guys are 24/7 answering services.
Correct.
Yep. So how do you, a little bit in the weeds, but we'll talk shop a little bit. So leads come in, they're getting you guys, you are presenting yourself as part of the you're not like, hi, I'm from Call Porter. You're saying, hi, I'm from, Barrett Industries.
Right. Yep.
Whatever. So when you go through that process, you set up the thing, how are you passing that lead on to the investor? Is it going into their CRM, or how do you guys interface with the investor's team?
Good question. So most of the time it goes into their CRM. So we don't get login credentials to CRM just for liability issues. So how we access their CRM is via a web form link.
Okay.
So as long as and if there's investor friendly CRMs, Resimply, REI Black Book, Investor Fuse, Podio, most of them have these, Salesforce, they have web form links. Yeah. So when a seller calls in, we're going to pick up the phone. We're going to answer the phone as that client's company. And the way that we identify that company right away is that we provide a forwarding number to that investor. They put that forwarding number in their call flow. So that forwarding number, essentially acts as the code or the key that opens up their account whenever a seller calls in. So it's automatically already on our rep's computer. So they know how to answer. They see the web form link, they see the calendar link, they see the notes about the company. So they're ready and they're prepared. So the seller calls in, we pull up that web form link, and as they're on the phone, they type in all the contact information, they get the property information, they get the how motivated they are, their time frame, a price point. We always ask if there's like an additional comments field in web form links in case anything else comes up. We hit submit, it goes into their CRM in real time. Now, depending on how that investor gets the notifications, some CRMs you can get a text message notification when a new contact is made, or an email or whatever. And then they follow up on that, whether that's please take this person off the list. This is a really good qualified lead. Look at all the notes. They've even booked an appointment. And then we have, what are kind of called follow-ups, and investors are familiar with this. Like someone calls in, they get our call center, and they're like, hey, Dan sent me a letter and said he can give me a cash offer on my home. Can I talk to him? Well, Dan's not here right now. He's not available. I can take take a message for you. No. I will talk to Dan. He's the one with the money. I want to know what he has to say. Right. And so they don't give us a ton of information. So we get what we can and we forward it over to that investor.
I mean, look, everybody wants to talk to me. And the only way to do it is to get on this podcast. So I don't know what to tell you.
We're going to do this on the weekly, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, look, I'm the one with the money, right? That one makes sense. So I just love every part of that. So I have we're coming to the end here. I don't want to keep you super long, but I do have this question. It's maybe a big one, and we can kind of touch on it wherever you want, but kind of getting into your guys' business at Call Porter and where this overlaps with a lot of investors is about hiring the right people, right? Because Call Porter is all about obviously building this team of people that you guys are going to train in real estate. Obviously they've got to be able to talk on the phone, and not just talk on the phone, but talk on the phone in a professional and intelligent way, but also, like you said, build rapport. Mm-hmm. I know you guys have this training process, but to some extent too, it's about finding the right people to put in those roles. Yeah. And it strikes me that you guys do this a lot, right? More than the average investor is going to get to do this. You probably have more reps in terms of hiring and finding the right people than the average investor will. So how do you guys think about hiring, right? How do you tell when someone's a good fit to be a part of the Call Porter team? I mean, and it strikes me, right? It's like, it's so critical for you guys because they're not just representing you, they're representing the client's business.
Yeah. So
it's such a sort of critical role. How do you guys go through that process of finding such great people?
Yeah. I mean, I really wish that Cassie, our CEO, was on the call, or Antone, he's our rep manager, because they would be able to answer that so much better than I would. But we look for, people that have thick skin, because one phone call, you're getting cussed out. The next one, you might get someone that's, super cute and smiley and ready to go, so it's like that transition from call to call. And, they're trained before they're even on the phones too, which is great. Right. So just because, they have call center experience or whatever, doesn't mean like day one, they're going to be taking call. Like they're trained frequently, like I mentioned, when we get good phone calls that come in, they're trained on the great phone calls that, this is how you handle a really good phone call, or this is how you handle a frustrating phone call. We're also trained on the not so good phone calls. Maybe there's a rep that really did drop the ball on something. We're going to train them on that. They're trained on the ins and outs of real estate. They walk the walk, talk the talk, know the lingo, know the acronyms, those kinds of things. So that's about really all I can speak to on the hiring part of it, just because I'm on the sales and marketing side. But they really are a great team of people. And I mean, we get people shouting out them every single day.
Well, and it just strikes me, right? Like, it's literally, if you guys weren't world class at finding the right people and training them to do a good job, you wouldn't be in business.
No.
Right? Yeah. Like, if I tried to build...
And we're getting better and better and better.
Yeah, if I tried to build Call Porter tomorrow, I would be out of business in 3 days, right? It's like, that wouldn't take very long, because that's just not my perfect skill set, right? So, I don't know. I was telling you this story before, but, Lou on my team, he was the one that kind of originally sort of struck up a relationship with you guys. I think we originally found out about you because one of our clients was using you. And, Lou is a phone guy. He's a sales guy. He's been a real estate investor, talks to real estate investors every single day. This dude loves being on the phone. He takes calls on vacation. He takes calls like 4 a.m. And I am like, you don't have to do this. And he's like, that's what I do for fun. I don't know what to tell you,
We've been on the phone and email razzing each other during the NHL playoffs
too. I'm not surprised. He's supposed to be working, gosh darn it. But he was the one that pulled me aside and was like, I think this is a secret weapon for our clients, right? Because, and I will say this, that, for the folks that are listening to this, obviously it's REI Marketing Nerds podcast. Marketing is what people come here for, but you can have the best marketing in the world if you can't answer the phones right on time and in a really productive and efficient way. It doesn't matter, right? And that's going to be a lesson that's going to come up in like multiple, it's already come up in like 10 interviews that we've had on this podcast, right? Yeah. I just think you guys are providing such an awesome service. So for people that want to learn more about Call Porter, I could see I started to mumble. I was like, marbles in my mouth for a second. For people who want to know more about you guys and what you do, what is the best way for them to reach out to you and learn more?
Yeah. I want to say something real quick first.
Yeah,
though,
please.
Because we didn't hit on it. And it's just connects so well to AdWords Nerds. We have what's called instant web lead capture and dial. So when people are getting leads off of their website or their social media or PPC or Google ads or whatever, we can hook up to those leads, make an automated phone call on their behalf within 90 seconds of that lead coming in.
Yeah.
It's so speed to lead. And the whole reason why we do that, if someone goes to, their Carrot site, their website, because they're looking for a cash offer on their home, they're not just going to that website. They're going to go on Google and they're going to hit 2 more, 3 more in that city. And it's really who's going to call them first. So with Call Porter, if we can hook up to your online leads, we will make that call on your behalf, typically on average within 90 seconds. That's pretty darn quick. I speak to clients all the time and they're like, yeah, I got leads in my queue that I haven't talked to that happened a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, yeah, dude, they're gone.
The person's not in your queue anymore. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought this up because this is really, this was really, really amazing. And so like for people that didn't catch that, right? Literally what it means is someone comes to your website and fills out your form.
Yeah, your landing page.
That phone is automatically ringing on their end and connecting them to Call Porter without you doing anything, right? You don't have to do anything.
It's literally a machine. Once you set up the Zapier on the leads end and on our end, it's automatic. It just keeps going. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, these phone calls are coming in and then we're sending you the good qualified deals. And that's what you focus on.
Yeah. And I said this actually on the last interview that I did too. And I'll say it here again, because I feel like the more often you say things, the more people that remember it. So I'm going to say this again, right? It was like, we did a study at AdWords Nerds because we were like, what really makes people stay as our clients? Like what determines client longevity? This is something that we do. Is the market, is their budget. Like what can we do? And the number one factor that was correlated with long-term success in AdWords, return on investment, revenue, whatever you want to measure, the number one success factor was speed to lead. speed to lead, right? It's like our
100%.
average close rate for clients is about one deal for every 12 leads or so that come in the funnel, right? Our best ever closing client is this wonderful guy, Joe McCall, who's a well-known real estate investor, right? He was using our service at the time, was closing 1 out of 6.
Wow.
1 out of 6. And so when we sat down with him, we were like, what is your secret? I don't think he'll care that I tell this story. I was like, what is your secret? Is they were on the phone with nearly every single lead that came in within 5 minutes of that person coming in, right? That's 5 minutes. We're talking about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for mentioning that. That is such a cool.
Yeah. I just had to get that in there before we hopped off there.
Yes. Yeah. So for people that want to learn more about who are like, well, I want to close 1 million deals. How do they learn more about Call Porter?
I mean, definitely, go to callporter.com, navigate our website. We're trusted by hundreds of investors around the nation. And, if you're an agent, same thing, go see, the reviews. There's videos on there. You can listen to sample phone calls. You can, find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, research us. Hey, if you want to go to Pat Live, try them out. Go for it. You're going to find out you're not going to like them. So come over at Call Porter, and you can try us for free for 30 days. So we have.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
You can
That's
try
true?
it for free. Yep, it's a true free 30 days. The reason why we do this is because, like, let's say your example, you are an investor and you're sending out marketing efforts, and you don't necessarily know like how many calls you might get in, because we're a monthly subscription, but we're also minutes based.
Yeah.
So if we give you a 30-day free trial and you are within your, sending that new campaign out, you're going to get a pretty good idea of how many calls came in, how many minutes you used. And then from there, we're going to give you a courtesy email about 3 days prior to that 30-day free trial ending. And you're going to say, hey, this is a perfect tier for me to fit in. Or maybe you need to drop me down a tier, or maybe you need to bump me up a tier. Or if you didn't think that the services were beneficial, which most stay with us, then, there's no obligation to you. There's no harm, no foul. We go our separate ways. And that's it. But it's a true 30-day free trial.
So look, folks, it sounds like I sound like I'm getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid anything to do this interview, by the way. So I'm open to it, but I'm not getting paid.
Right. Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say, right? Because I am a data guy, right? A data guy. So if you are not sure, right? If phone, picking up the phone, that part of that process, if you're not sure if that's important for your kind of revenue and your long-term, like longevity in the business, test it out. You can do a 30-day free trial, split them up half. Take half the calls yourself, send half to Call Porter, and just see what the difference is, see what the experience is.
Dude, I'm stealing that on Instagram. I'm using that exact language.
Oh my God. So it's worst thing that happens is you're like, that was kind of a waste of my time, and you don't do it. The best thing that could happen is you realize that you're unlocking this major constraint in your business that can really change the way that things work. And the reason that I'm sort of harping on this is, one, I think Call Porters are a great service, but really it's just about, I know for a fact there's so many investors out there that struggle and they try to solve the problem in the wrong place, right? They try to solve, an economy problem with marketing. They try to solve, whatever. They try to solve a profit problem with just more funding or whatever it is. And if you are having issues with your follow-up or your back-end systems, fixing that up even a little bit can have a massive multiplier effect on your revenue. So Vince, I cannot tell you how awesome this was. I really, really appreciate you coming on. Now, you have a link on the site where people can actually talk directly to you. So if you're listening to this podcast and you want to talk to Vince, actually walk through a little bit of your business sort of situation or give him some context, you can do that. That's at callporter.com/schedule. So callporter.com/schedule. If they book a call with you,
/schedule. Yep.
Yeah. So if they book a call with you, like, what should they expect? That's a strategy session that you mentioned before.
Yeah. And that's really what we call it, is a strategy session, because the investors are on so many different levels and where they are with their business, right? And we have huge corporate clients and we have investors that are solopreneurs. So you call me, I'm going to get a good idea about who you are, what's your background in real estate, You're going to kind of tell me, what your marketing looks like. I'm going to ask you, how do you manage your deals? Do you got a CRM? Oh, you got an Excel sheet. Okay, well, tell me how you stay on top of that and things don't go through the cracks. Who's your phone provider? All right, you got your cell phone. Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that because you need to get off your cell phone and get yourself a marketing number with like CallRail or Ring Central, or so I'm gonna educate them and figure and they're gonna educate me as well. Like I get educated all the time with potential clients calling in. But yeah, it's really just a strategy session, and they're gonna find out I'm not super salesy. Like when we get off the phone, I'm not gonna hound them, every day for the next 2 months or whatever. The service is what it is. You either want it and need it or you don't. That's it.
Yeah.
So I'm not salesy in that regard. And I'll let them know like, hey, I'll probably give you a bump, next week or something like that. I always try to resource people. If you have a strategy session and you want our script that our reps use, I'll send it to you. That's something that we just give away for free. If you want it, you want to see what our reps say and how they do things, here it is. If you need information about CRMs, well, I'll give you a list of CRMs that I think are really good for the investment world, or so I'll resource them, and it really is a strategy session for the folks that do want to sign up with us. We do have to have a credit card on file to sign up for the 30-day free trial. Mostly that's for, our reps pulling full 40 numbers and things, for them, but also when they decide to stay with us, and most do, there's literally no interruptions on their service. It just, the 30 days is over, then they get charged for their subscription for the next month.
Like, I think, look, if you are listening to this right now, you're an investor, you're like, I don't know if it's for me, just steal the script. Literally just told you could steal their script. All right, Vince, just hold on for a second. Just plug your ears. Look, these morons are giving away this $1 million script for free. You need to go steal it. Thank you so much, Vince. This was awesome. I really, really appreciate all your expertise and time. Again, if you're listening to this, the website is callporter.com. You can find them on Instagram at callporterofficial, TikTok. Of course, if you want to go see what the heck he's doing on there, you can go check that out as well. Yeah. Vince, thank you so much, man. This was a blast.
Man, it was awesome, man. And I'm sure we'll be talking again in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, man. This week's episode, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can learn more about AdWords Nerds over at adwordsnerds.com. And you can find every episode of this podcast at adwordsnerds.com/podcast. We got the show notes, we got the links, we got everything you're going to need over there. Hey, if you are listening to this podcast, I would really appreciate it. It would mean a huge amount to me if you could leave us a review wherever you got this podcast. It helps other people find it, and I cannot tell you how much that means to me. I read every single one. All right, folks, I'll be talking to you next week. I hope you have a good one. Cheers.
This is the podcastfactory.com.